And of course, we still have Mr. Oluseyi Odufuwa in the studio, and he's helping us make sense or better sense of the various economic reforms of this current administration, which is marking its third year in office. So before we went on that break, you talked about investors returning to Nigeria,
yes,
and of course how the capital market is about to be the new big thing or the next oil to be invested into.
Yes.
Please carry on from there.
So I was saying that the capital market year-to-date returns, that's in the last 5 months, January to May, the market has returned about 61%. You know, it's not something that is, look at First Bank, look at Jais Bank, 1 naira to 6, 7 naira, you know, that's what we are talking about. So those are the indicators in which you will know that the economy is moving. Look at GDP. GDP has grown.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, our projection was around 4.07%, but as we speak, you know, GDP has grown to about 3. I think about 8.9 thereabout. And so those are the indicators, macroeconomic indicators that you look at.
Okay.
The disparity between the growth on paper, as the masses will say, to normal growth, which is, you know, maybe reduction in cost of goods and services, high cost of production, high cost of running costs, and the likes, is that look at institutions that are quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange as well, over 200 to 300 of them. Look at the profit margins most of these companies declared in the last audited report. Massive. Look at dividend payout. So it means that Nigerians must begin to get well educated. We must transit from that docile nature of waiting for things to come to transit into, you know, formal investment. That's what we should look at. For instance, I'll give you an instance now. You are probably you take alcohol, you drink beer, Nigerian breweries, Guinness and the like.
You want to pay for them.
No, my apologies. You know, you consume alcohol, let me use
Right.
that. For instance, you consume alcohol and you don't own shares in these institutions. And yet, at the end of the day, they share dividends.
So you are wasting your money.
I'm telling you, you are only a consumer. What I'm trying to drive at...
You be an investor.
That's what I'm trying to say, that you must transit from being an ordinary consumer to an investor.
At least you drink your investments.
Yes. You know,
Okay.
you bank with, you know, any of these banks. You bank where they know you as a customer, but you are not a shareholder.
Right.
How do you not share profit during AGM? So we must begin to transit. You use skincare product, but you are not a shareholder of the manufacturer.
Right.
So Nigerians must begin to transit from just being a consumer, you know, citizen to an investor citizen. And that's the only way we can leverage and meet up to cover for those gaps that are already there. But Nigerians must know that we will not go back into those days. It's not possible, because the dollar naira has found its value at about 1,300 and something plus to 1,400, and that's where it will stay. Sincerely, that's where it will stay. And so that's the new norm that we have now, and we must live by it. And that's the truth.
Okay, so earlier in my introduction, I did say that is it a combination of all pains or a combination of pains and gains?
Yes, I said
so
both.
you have highlighted some of those gains that are very visible for all of us to see. But
Yes.
what about those pains and those areas where do you think that the federal government is lagging behind in some of its economic reforms?
Yes. Okay, so I will mention just 3, and I hope that authorities too are listening. I also want to say that I was privileged to be in a high-profile meeting where I know very clearly that Mr. President has, you know, good plans for citizens of this country. Within the last 1 year of this administration, we'll begin to see so much of radical change. We are going to transit from these policies now, macroeconomic policies, to citizens-driven, direct-driven policies. Is going to happen in the last 1 year of this administration. So the first one is severe cost of living crisis, which is prevalent everywhere. You know, Nigerians care more about their living conditions more than these indicators that we have been mentioning all through, and we can understand it. But we still have to tell ourselves the truth that we must begin to transit. That's the only way. Nigerians must begin to get more educated, you know, in understanding their finances and how to manage, because you must scale up. You must try to increase your purchasing power. Government did it at their own scale, which is about 70,000 naira minimum wage or living wage. So, but you must learn to scale up, and that's the only way you can meet up with trend. You know, the second one is weak social safety nets, which I mentioned earlier, that was what government should have done. I would have preferred where, as we remove subsidies, instead of giving all, that's my own postulation, to states and local government, we should have earmarked or create another fund where some of these things will be provided by federal government as social safety nets. Social safety nets in transport subsidy, social safety nets in healthcare subsidy, social safety nets in mother and child healthcare, right. You know, social safety nets in security, social safety nets even in agriculture, you know. So those are the things I feel that government ought to have done, you know, before putting up subsidy 3 years ago. And the last one, you know, we know that growth presently is still below population expectation. And what I mean by that is that we expected to be growing at double digits if we want to meet up with a $1 trillion economy. And as we speak now, Nigeria is not running in isolation. We don't have those cushions that we needed to have. For instance, electricity is a challenge. You don't have power, you can grow optimally. Number 2, agriculture. Right. Number 3, security. Those things are tied to each other. All of them are fiscal policies that should grow. But, you know, macroeconomic policies, that's monetary policies and fiscal policies, must run at the same level parallelly. But as we speak, our macroeconomic indices is running super fast, more than our fiscal policies. Though fiscal policies take time. So those are the areas we feel that government should look at and try to work on. If we can, maybe in the next 1 year, Nigeria GDP will grow at probably 6%. Okay. And that's what we are looking at. But one major factor that really drew us back in the last 4 to 5 months, that's why inflation too is rising back astronomically, is the Iran and US debacle. Okay. That's one of the issues.
Right. As we close this conversation this morning, I mean, you've looked at the pros and the cons, talked about the negative and the positives of this administration. In your own opinion, at least in the last 1 or 1.5 years remaining for this administration during this tenure, what would you like to see consolidations on to ensure that the economy remains stable?
Okay, so for me, as an economist and as an asset manager, I would like to see more of human engagement from this administration. We are one of the masses, and we feel, you know, what people feel. Like I said, looking at it macroeconomically, the economy is growing, no doubt. The economy is growing at a particular pace, but it's not aligning fully with the masses. The president said something a few days ago that he's also feeling the pains that Nigerians are feeling. I know that it's relative. Even our presenters here, they're jiggling. They don't believe it. But I know that your pain is also his pain.
It's also his weight.
Literally.
He said so. He said so. Your pain is also his pain. And I know that, like I said, within the last 1 year, in the next 1 year to 1.5 years, I know that some reforms will come up that will drive, you know, growth, you know, at the grassroots level, which I'm very, very sure about. It's not for me to speak. We have ministers who will do their speaking at the right time.
I guess you're speaking because of your belief in this administration.
Oh, yes, and the little that we know that government is trying to put in place now to ensure that growth, you know, gets to grassroots level.
All right, this will be a fine place to leave this conversation this morning. Thank you so much, Oluseyi Odufuwa, Managing Director, CEO, Capital Plus Management Limited, and a financial management consultant. Thank you so much for always finding time to be with us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We'll take a quick break. The conversation returns shortly.